All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And you know, yesterday how an insider reported that XDefiant would likely be dead after season 4 or something like that. And Mark Rubin, sometime later, basically came out and said, just to be clear, we're not, the game is, not going to die after season 4 or something like that. And instead of talking about that, I want to talk about the more interesting part of Mark Rubin's tweet today, and that is that he has been literally since last week in meetings about year 2 content, basically about how they want to approach the game from a content standpoint and releasing things and stuff like that as far as year 2 is concerned. And that's what we're going to be getting into today, maybe throwing up some ideas here and there. And of course, there is one XDefiant developer that watches my stuff. He visits my streams. I got to get back on streaming again. It's been a while since I streamed, but we can use this video and in the comment section below as feedback to the devs, right? Because we know that they're listening to us and they watch us and they pay attention to small content creators and not just big ones, right? So, which is obviously a good thing, and it obviously makes sense since the community of XDefiant is, kind of a small community, so to speak. Especially when you talk about us OGs, to which this game was kind of built for, if you think about it, in terms of OG Call of Duty players, you know what I mean? And that's definitely one of the things that I love about XDefiant, is that it does feel like OG Call of Duty with a twist to it. So anyway, let's get into what could possibly or some of the changes that I think need to be implemented in year 2. Now, we know that year 1 hasn't even crossed the halfway point yet, right? So it's a little premature to think that far ahead, but hold on. We already know that year 1 content and also the entirety of the rest of the year 1 roadmap, we already know what's coming, right? And we already know that the year 1 content itself, in terms of the maps and the weapons and stuff like that, is pretty much finished, right? We already know that. It's been finished for a while now, right? I want to add that one of the things that I think is definitely something that is obviously it's a fact that the number 1 priority is the netcode, obviously. I think it's part of the reason as to why things have been coming out slower. However, there are a few things that they have taken, there are a few decisions that they've made that I think need to be changed for year 2. So let's get into that, right? So now, first of all, I know that most of you don't care about competitive, so I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how competitive is going to play out. Word is, at least according to one of you guys in the comment section that knew this before I did and that are into competitive, you guys basically mentioned to me that there's already I think the number was 30 pros or something like that, give or take, that are already basically just waiting for everything to come to fruition so that way they can play and get things going. Now, who those pros are is going to be very interesting to see. There's probably going to be maybe a few new names that are into the mix, but at the same time, you might see some OGs come out of retirement. I don't think some of the big name OGs are going to come out of retirement, but at the same time, it would be kind of interesting to see if any of them do, because, and of course, for me, I think the M16 is probably going to be meta. It may be the meta assault rifle for competitive play. So just to be kind of curious, I just want to see, because I'm an M16 addict. I love the gun. I'm pretty sure you guys have noticed that by now. So I'm very interested to see how my shot stacks up against the pros, because the pros have the best shots in the game, right? Those guys, their shots are absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes when I look at the OG Call of Duty teams that played, for instance, when you look at Clayster, when you look at Formal and stuff like that, or the current player like Dashy, for instance, those guys have insane shots, right? So obviously I am more than likely not going to be able to aim quite like that, but to see the difference is something that's going to motivate me even more to make my M16 shot even better, and to maybe take a few hints from watching a few of their gameplays or something like that, if that were to happen. But obviously Dashy's not going to go from COD to XDefiant, but I'm just saying, just comparing what the pros can do compared to what I can do, which would not be up to par, would kind of motivate me to get even better. So just out of curiosity, that would be kind of interesting for me to see. But anyway, okay, so now we know competitive is going to happen in starting in year 2, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that ends up turning out, whether it's going to be more like MLG, how it was back in the old days, or whether it's going to be like current days, like the CDL. So that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Now, let's get into what most of us are probably interested in and what we're here for. So the first thing that I have listed over here is that we don't need any more drip fed content, right? In other words, it sounded good on paper that they were going to release one new map every single month. However, that is something that the community now for the long run hasn't really enjoyed all that much. A lot of people in the community are saying just release all 3 maps at once, right? Another thing that I want to mention is that the roadmap, I think, needs to be changed. And one of the major changes that I think needs to happen to the roadmap for year 2 is that the seasons need to be 2 months instead of 3. I think 2 months is really a solid way to go. And if they can manage to get the same amount of content, if not more content per season in a 2-month basis, I think that would be a huge W. I think that would be a really big win because again, as of right now, seasons are 3 months and we're getting 3 maps, 3 weapons, and game modes and fixes like that in between. Okay, that's cool. But if they can do that in a 2-month period, I think that would be a big win. And if they can add in maybe a few more weapons, excuse me, a few more weapons here and there, I think that'd be great. Because and again, one of the things that really a lot of players, as far as the maps are concerned, a lot of players do not play the linear modes to where they have those bigger maps and stuff like that. There are players that do, don't get me wrong, but I think the majority of players, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this in the comment section, I think the majority of players play the arena modes to where they're playing, the regular size maps like the Noodleplex and the arena and stuff like that, right? So basically usually the way it goes is there's an arena map that gets released, and then after that in month 2 there's the linear map that gets released, and then in month 3 the last arena map gets released, or something like that, right? So for a lot of players that don't even play the linear modes, like myself for instance, it's like okay, the guys that play the linear maps, they get a new map, which is great, and they are important, but it feels like there's pretty much nothing for the players that are playing the arena game modes. It's like, yeah, there's a new map, but we can't play on it because it's not for the game modes that we play and it's too big, blah blah blah. So again, the roadmap needs to change. So 2 ways that they need to do that is they need to stop drip feeding us content as far as maps are concerned, and approach it the same way like weapons, and give us more weapons instead of 3. Increase it to like 5 or 6. I think that would be a really big deal. And of course, the seasons need to be 2 months instead of 3. I think that's a really, really good way. All right, another thing that I've written here is that store price fixes need to be changed, as well as store content, and they really need to start taking advantage of their major Ubisoft characters like a Sam Fisher and stuff like that. Now, what kind of store content am I talking about? Because right now what they're doing is they're basically doing the same, very similar things as to what some other franchises are doing, right? They're just doing different skins and bundles and stuff like that. Okay, now I've already mentioned that they need to, not just rely on bundles. Just release things separately in pieces and make the prices reasonable, right? We've already talked about that. And of course, we just mentioned now that they need to start utilizing their Ubisoft characters, like a Sam Fisher skin or an Ezio from Assassin's Creed, and so on and so forth, from all these different Ubisoft franchises. It's pretty much a damn shame that they're not taking advantage of that already. But again, we're not even halfway done with year 1 yet, so that may be something that is coming. However, they need to take that a step further. There needs to be, you guys remember in Call of Duty Ghosts, which Mark Rubin, by the way, was the director of that game, coincidentally. Remember how they had like the Snoop Dogg sound pack, and then they did a whole bunch of other different voice packs and stuff like that? They really should take advantage of that with XDefiant. They really should take advantage with that with XDefiant, with Sam Fisher, and with a few other things like that. And maybe even think outside the box. And if they can do it, or like the Rabbids sound effects or something like that. Like seriously, I'm not even kidding. You know what I mean? So if they can come up with some really cool stuff like that, that'd be great. And another thing is they can take a page out of something like, let's say, Halo, right? For instance, Halo. You guys know the Grunt birthday party skull, to where if you hit a grunt in the head, you pop them, and then birthday confetti comes on, and there's sound effects that happen. There needs to be stuff like that with XDefiant for when you get kills or something like that, or when you go on a certain streak, or for every 2 kills, or for every 3 kills, consecutively, right? They need to do stuff like that to where it'll actually match the art style of the game pretty damn well when you have effects like that. I think a lot of people would really dig that. It would also kind of, in a way, without changing the game gameplay in and of itself, it would kind of enhance the game and make it just feel that much better, you know, have a whole bunch of different sounds for where you can get, like when you get a kill, there's a very specific sound that goes off, or whenever you collect a tag in Hot Shot, there's a specific sound that goes off, right? Well, what if you were to actually, you know, get a pack of different sounds that would change the way the game just the atmosphere of the game for a lot of players. I think a lot of people would dig that. And of course, another thing that's the elephant in the room as far as this is concerned is reactive camos. I think XDefiant with its art style is in a very, very good position in order to do some reactive camos and to get those going. Really, we're not just talking about like the regular art of the weapon, but we're talking about all the different kinds of things that you can do with the weapon. And again, when you get kills and stuff like that, you can make all sorts of different animations pop up and stuff like that. And, you know, when you pair that with the voice and the sounds effects and stuff like that I just mentioned, it's like, okay, this will definitely help give XDefiant its own identity and its own personality. And again, with the kind of art style that the game has in and of itself, within the different Ubisoft IPs that the game is going to eventually use over time, I think there's a lot they can play with. And I think a lot of players will take advantage of the fact that, like, hey, you know, if we have this sound pack here or this animation pack or something like that for a reasonable price in the store, I think a lot of players could definitely take advantage of that, especially since it can literally change the game as opposed to something that you hardly ever see at all, unless it's like in the victory screen. You know what I mean? If it's something that people can see and experience, you know, in game, that's a big game changer. And I think that is worth money as opposed to something that mainly your opponents are going to see or that you're going to see in the victory screen. But that's just my opinion, and by all means, let that be known down below. Another thing that I've put into the mix, and hopefully this comes in year one, but in case it doesn't, I mean, we really need some in-game leaderboards for pubs, as well as you know, like kind of like the whole after action report and everything like that just gives us more details as opposed to what the score was. You know, I know Halo does this very well with accuracy and all that kind of stuff, but I think a really cool detailed after action report would be great. That could be probably added into like something like the combat record, which is said to be coming as well. But I just wanted to kind of add that into the mix, because we know that leaderboards are coming from the competitive side, but I really would I think it would make all the sense in the world to have leaderboards for pubs as well, because, and I mean in-game leaderboards, not the stuff that we're getting from XDefiantTracker.gg or whatever. It's like we need in-game leaderboards for pubs as well. And I think a lot of players, both casual and non-casual alike, can really appreciate that. But for the most part, they really, I think right now, in terms of where we are in season 2 and after season 2, we're going to be at the halfway point in terms of year 1. I think from beta up until we are now, I think there's a lot that has been learned. And if there's any developer out there that is going to implement those changes, especially after the netcode is fixed and to where more focus can be put on other things now, and more stuff can start to get released, I think the XDefiant developers are the ones that are going to give it to us, because, you know, they're obviously transparent. And when you look at the way things started when the game originally released, in terms of how the XP was working and how the weapon XP was working and stuff like that, and how they changed those up really, really quickly, that just those things right there. Like when I'd say after the netcode gets fixed, right, I think there's going to be a lot of changes like that happening quite quickly after the netcode is fixed. I think we're going to start to see a different change of pace after season 2 is finished, because the netcode fix is going to be released, and on top of that, they're always going to be continuously working on it. But as stated previously by Mark Rubin, we're not going to be feeling the difference up until either the end of season 2 or the beginning of season 3, or who knows, if they get ahead of schedule, maybe even sooner. There's going to be an X debrief this Friday, so there's going to be definitely a video made about that, as well as all the details about that. I'm really curious as to what they're going to do. And of course, as you guys know, every single month in the season, there's always a new X debrief and always like a big update, and sometimes in between there's like little mini updates, right? So it really is good to see like a major update and big communications happening from the team to us and vice versa, like every single month. But I'm really curious to see how much the pace is going to change after this season is over, and obviously in terms of what they do with season 2, because as of right now, I'm sure they've heard us that you know, these seasons are too long, and on top of that, we need a little bit more content per season. So if they make it 2 months, and if they give us more content, and if they fix the store, if they take advantage of the store the right way, make things reasonable, give us all sorts of different really cool content that matches the art style of the game and the characters of the game and stuff like that, I think more people will be interested. And on top of that, let's be real here. Despite the fact that Ubisoft has been like really struggling lately, I'm not going to deny that at all. A lot of people, one of the things that I noticed when I first started covering XDefiant is that a lot of people are very, very familiar with the Ubisoft IPs. So for them not to take advantage of that, you know, especially starting in season 3 and beyond, I think would be a damn shame. And we're not just talking about the store, but we're talking about the game itself as well. So if anything, when year 2 rolls around, they really need to go full on and really take advantage of that in multiple ways. So that way the game itself does better. And so that way more people come back. And so that way more people play the game. Because ultimately that's what it's all about. So anyway, guys, let me know down in the comment section some of your ideas that you guys might have, what they can do with season 2, about the seasons and stuff like that. What would you like to see? Like maybe some PvE modes or something like that. Let every single idea and thought be known down in the comments section below. And as always, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.